James, are you with us?
Yes, I am. How are you?
Oh, I'm just great. You're with Project Freedom Radio Network. We're live on the air right now.
Okay, great.
Yeah, terrific. I tried to get you a little bit earlier, but I guess we never had a good connection here. So, but that's good that you're with us now. And you have a new movie out, The Hidden Hand.
Yes.
And it sounds very, very exciting. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yes. It's a film. It's the whole title is called The Hidden Hand: Alien Contact in the Government Cover-Up.
Right.
And I think it's kind of walks you through the whole trajectory of the UFO ET phenomena. And so if you know nothing about it, then it's pretty kind of in-depth, like leading you through the nuts and bolts. And if you know something about it, then it also goes into many different aspects. And so I think everyone can learn something. And, right now it's been pretty well received. It's won 5 awards so far. And it's been in Google Play. It's been on their top 10 list of documentaries for the last 3 weeks.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Anything to be able to get the word out. Do you think that this whole thing started like in 1947 with the Roswell incident, or was it prior to that?
I think it was prior to that. I mean, if you look at like the ancient sagas from Hinduism, or even you look at the Egyptian myths, or you look at the myths from Sumeria, it all seems to indicate that there already was some kind of ET beings at that time.
And I think it's just most recently that we've come to the realization maybe that there is a government cover-up here. Yeah,
I think it's pretty clear there is. And I mean, I think it's pretty, when you start looking at it, it's pretty evident why. First off, if you look at when the Freedom of Information Act came about, when President Carter took office, there was a window of a couple years where we could get documents, and a lot of those documents are very, very indicative that there was a cover-up. It's major generals, and or you would have people from the CIA, the science director from the CIA talking to the director of the CIA, saying that this phenomenon is real and that they're concerned about it. So there was a cover-up, because why, when the CIA and the FBI and the Air Force was saying there's not a problem and Project Blue Book is just nonsense, it's swamp gas, it's Venus, whatever, then they were actually studying real cases that they were concerned about, especially about UFOs over military sites and nuclear sites.
Wow. I've looked into a little bit of it myself, but of course we've had different guests on here, Stephen Bassett, and different ones that have gone into quite depth on the thing. And I know that a lot of them, Richard Dolan and such, are really looking for some kind of disclosure. What's your opinion on that? Do you think we'll ever will get disclosure?
Yes and no. I think disclosure is already happening. It kind of looks like it's a slow opening. Like there's already 20 countries all over the world that are releasing their UFO documents, including Great Britain, Soviet Union, Canada, Denmark, France, Brazil, New Zealand. So it's pretty extensive. And so if you have like these countries releasing UFO documents, it's basically saying, without saying it, like, hey, U.S., we kind of know that you've got something too. And so in that sense, disclosure is coming about, but I don't think it's going to come about in terms of like the president coming on TV and saying, hey, we've had contact and we've known about it all these years, because in a way that opens up a bigger can of worms than not doing it. In terms of who is responsible for lying, who has the technology, what kind of technology, where did all this money go, and so there's actually a lot of criminal cases that could come against people of power if they were to reveal it. So I'm just thinking eventually it's going to come out, but it'll have to be a confluence of historical events that kind of precipitate it.
Mm-hmm. More of a disclosure actually from the aliens.
Well, they've had plenty of opportunity and they haven't done it yet. The aliens are very secretive in almost everything they do. So they take people, they contact people, a lot of times they wipe their memories, they give them screen memories, so they don't, people don't know what happened to them or where they've been, and, by all accounts, most ETs aren't interested in us knowing what they're up to.
Mm-hmm. I found it very interesting. A while back I saw a documentary on this, and they were, I guess, comparing it to animals, like in a zoo, and not only in a zoo but in experiments. We probe animals and we stick them with needles and put helmets on their head and see what their brain waves are and all the rest of the stuff. And maybe the aliens are just doing that to us.
Well, I think to some degree they are. I mean, they don't seem terribly concerned about how we feel about it, and like we don't really care about monkeys. We don't really care about the cows we slaughter that we milk. A cow lives 20 years, but if we now with modern technology, the way we use a milk cow, it only lives 3 or 4 years because we just basically suck all that life energy out of it, and next. So I think there is a kind of a reflection there about what we do and how there's a golden rule: do unto others as you would have them do unto you. So we might have to re-examine that.
Yes, I think we do have to re-examine that, taking a look at this planet and the way that it's going. I really appreciate and I love Bob Dean's stuff. I'm sure you know Bob Dean, but
yes, I do.
Yeah, he's a remarkable man, and I don't know, when I look at the alien contact or the alien issue itself, I take a look at different ones who have expressed that a little hard to bite on. Really want to believe, but I'm taking, let's say, I'll make reference to David Icke and the Reptilian and shapeshifters and stuff like that. It's really hard to get your head around, but when you listen to somebody like Bob Dean, he seems so sincere in what he's doing, and
well, he is sincere, and he's someone he says he's had positive contact.
Right.
So he's in a kind of a whole different way than David Icke. I mean, David Icke is kind of exposing corruption and secrecy and secret societies. He doesn't really even get into the ET stuff that much. I mean, he does get into the reptilian stuff because he thinks it's an integral part of our dynamic on Earth. I'm not sure about that, but I think it's more than like this shape-shifting. It's more like there's reptilians in a dimension that's very close to this one that are influencing people in power that have a genetic lineage that is more related to those entities, or somehow had some degree of genetics. I mean, that may sound far-fetched, but if you look at our history, in old ancient history, there is a lot of talk about wise serpents and reptilians that walked, and I mean, there is some kind of case for it, but I'm not saying that that's the truth. But in my film, I kind of in broad strokes, I show what's out there, and I let the viewers decide what they're interested in and what they want to explore a little more. I don't ever say this is the way it is, because it's such a deep and broad subject that I think it's really hard to say this is the way it is. I mean, André Gide, there was a quote he said, and it was like, listen to people who are seeking the truth, doubt those who have found it. So that's kind of one of my mottos.
Yeah. That's a good motto too.
Yeah.
you know, I don't know. We've been looking at the alien contact, I guess. Um,
Hmm.
I've had the opportunity to investigate almost my past memories. It's they're not that clear, but I think that maybe I have had some kind of contact over the years, and I also believe that it's almost genetic. That my parents had contact and their parents had contact. And what's your feelings towards that?
Well, it does seem to be generational. It's, when people are taken, they're picked. They're picked because they have special capabilities, or because their lineage has already been used, like their father, their mother, their grandfather, their grandmother, their great, and so it does run in family lines.
Right. I know that I sort of have that. I believe maybe you do too. I don't know. That we've always been in contact. There's always been something. It depends on what we, how you refer to it as the Anunnaki or different gods or people who have come from outside this planet down here to tell us how to live. It seems that all our religions are that way. They're the leaders of the majority of all the religions on the planet are some entity that's off the planet, and is that alien contact?
Well, I mean, you can argue that that's all we've ever had is alien contact. If we've been created by
Right.
ETs, then they've somehow stewarded the whole project into being, and I don't know how hands-on they are anymore or not. I mean, that's a very interesting question, because like in the old myths, they talk them as living amongst us, and they were kind of like, they weren't even the kings, because they had the ones that were more half-breeds between the aliens and the humans would be like the kings or the divine kings, but they were gods. And
Right.
it was our job to work for them, to actually give them offering, to give them food, and some people even claim that we had to sacrifice humans for them. Like that's the whole idea of sacrificing the firstborn, and the whole idea of giving up your son came from that time.
Right. Right. I think the world is ready. Uh, I don't know how to put this. If there was a time that we needed some kind of intervention on this planet, it would be now.
Mhm.
I think things are getting worse by the day.
Mhm.
Uh, and I don't like to be a defeatist or in a negative sense all the time, but there's a reality part here too. That if we check on our good scientists, let's say, I just saw a video with Michi Kashu, and
Uh-huh.
his different statements were that it'd take 50 to 100 years to clean up Fukushima. That
Right.
Fukushima is an apocalyptic event that has happened over there, and that continues to happen with the meltdown of 3 reactors. And we have different prophecies. I'm going to read you one here. It's a Hopi prophecy. I don't know if you've heard it before.
Okay.
When the birds fall from the sky and the animals are dying, a new tribe of people shall come onto the earth, from many colors, classes, and creeds, who by their actions and deeds shall make the earth green again. They will be known as warriors of the rainbow. That is one of the Hopi prophecies, and it's just about time we could have some help here.
Well, I agree we could have some help, but I don't know if we're going to get it. I'm not. I'm thinking that I don't know if it really makes much sense to help us out. If you think about, like, if you help us out, what have we really learned? I mean, the thing, if you look at the state of war, or like Fukushima, one that it could happen is a catastrophe that it hasn't been an international task force, like every nation, every expert, they're doing with all the resources of the earth. piled on there to stop it. We haven't done that, and in fact, we've ignored it. And you hardly hear about it on the news. I mean, you hear about it sometimes, and now a little more because it is really bad. But the whole Pacific is already radiated. So I think if that mentality doesn't change in terms of making war here in Syria and just everywhere, does it make sense to save us so we can bring that whole kind of consciousness out into the galaxy? I don't know if that makes sense from their point of view. I mean, if they saw that we could change, or that we are changing, and that our consciousness is expanding a little, but why would you enable someone who would be a total threat and add chaos? Can you imagine when we have the technology to blow up planets and suns? And it's Michio Kaku talks about how a first degree civilization, which we're not yet, is one that has total control over everything on a planet. A second degree civilization would have total control of everything in a solar system, and then the third degree would have total control over everything in a galaxy. And with that kind of power, I think, comes responsibility. So that's why I don't know if we're going to get people coming in and saving us, because we haven't shown that we can be responsible.
True. Boy, I guess I have to agree with you there. Somebody asked me about peace, and I just said, "Well, that's almost impossible."
I don't think it's impossible. It's we just have to change our minds of how we do things. It's not impossible, and in part of the way, it's like, what kind of state of mind are you in?
Mm-hmm.
Do you believe that this world is only competition and strife, or can you open up to a different way of living, one of cooperation? Because if you look at evolution, everyone says that Darwin was right in that it was survival of the fittest, and actually that wasn't correct. What happened was it was cooperative. The societies or the species that cooperated were the ones that evolved. And if you look at cells, there came a certain point where they couldn't increase their membrane, and so then they had to learn how to divide themselves up, and then they became amoebas. Right. And then when they couldn't increase their size to be efficient anymore, then they started becoming these multi-cell organisms. And we are that too. It's like we're not a single entity. We have 40 trillion cells in our body, and so that is basically our consciousness, our identity is more like the government of this body that we're in charge of. And so I think perhaps where we're going now as a species is we're taking that to another level in terms of connecting with the internet, and we're becoming connected as humanity. And that's a possibility, but we definitely have to change some of our ideas about how we cooperate.
Yeah, I think we have to change it an awful lot. When I was talking about peace and what does that mean to you as an individual? I'm, let's say, Roman Catholic, and this is the way I see peace, and you're Muslim, and this is the way you see peace. And, what kind of peace do you want? And, do I want everybody going to Mass on Sunday? It's, that's basically what I'm talking about when it comes to the peace end of it, is how do we actually get along? And I think that, unfortunately, it's only order through chaos that we will get peace. There has to be a climatic event, a big event of some kind, to be able to draw people together, because they seem to draw together with a big event, don't they? World War II, let's say. They pull together, and there has to be something there to be able to say, okay, we are, bang. I know that on my page right now, if the people scroll down just a little bit below the hidden hand advertisement, you'll see humans have changed it, and it was a beautiful picture of the Earth out in the galaxy. And then next to it, there's another picture of the Earth, which is just all flags. And and I'm basically saying stop the insanity. But
Right.
we put borders all over the place, borders within our minds of different people and different, things. Let's get away from the idea that I'm Catholic and you're Protestant, or I'm black and you're white, and you're Jewish, or whatever, and say I'm human.
Right, exactly. That's what Krishnamurti said. He said that whenever you call yourself a Catholic, a Jew, a Hindu, a Buddhist, that you're creating separation and divisiveness, because we're all. That's not what you are. You're a spiritual human being, and I think if you start at that level, then that's the way to go. I mean, I've traveled all over the world, and everywhere people are very kind and helpful, and I think that's the best education anyone can have, is just to know that you don't really have to be frightened of other people just because they speak different languages or live in a different country.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think we have to be frightened of governments, maybe, but we don't have to be frightened of people.
Right.
There was an experiment happened over in Iran, and the Iranian people sent pictures of the Israeli people over to Israel and put underneath the picture, "We love you." And they expected really bad things to happen because they did that. And here, a bunch of people from Israel did the exact same thing. Took pictures of Iranian people, and, or Israeli people, and said, "We love you." And the people, love each other, but the governments hate each other.
Yeah, but maybe those are also the youth. So, maybe there is hope in that regard, because, like, if you look at, what happened in 1948 and the creation of Israel, there was a lot of bad on every side, and so people have that very kind of constricted, warlike mentality still, and it's possible that maybe generations that come will ease up on that.
I hope so. I would like to think that my grandchildren had a beautiful planet to live on, and unfortunately, I really believe that the populace lives in a hypnotic trance that has been imposed on them by the corporate elite scumbags of this earth. A lot of people, I guess what I'm getting to is that they go into the shop at Walmart. I'm sorry, no, they go to work at Walmart 40 hours a week, and then they go home on Friday night and they have their supper and they go back to Walmart and spend all their money. And it's a vicious circle.
Right, it is.
And, as far as Agenda 21 goes, they've all come into the urban areas and they go into little white boxes and they put 7 locks on because they're told that people are going to steal everything, so they're super paranoid, and all they want is their Xbox and their 60-inch plasma TV, and sit back and relax and say they've been told that they are happy. And they're not vibrating at 7.8 hertz. The same as the Earth. We vibrate at the same as the Earth. Get out, take a walk, do something. But don't just stay in the little white box that they want to put you in, and I don't know.
No, I agree with you. But I mean, you have to. I think if you think of it in terms of, like, there's all, when you look at it, it looks pretty hopeless. But I think if look what you're doing. You have a radio show. It's Project Freedom. I mean, that's amazing, and I'm sure you have a lot of people that listen to you and are inspired by what you do. So that's a real service, and I'm sure you're doing it. Not for. You're probably doing it because you believe in what you're doing, and you think you want to help. And I think if everyone does that, that's what does change things. We don't have to look for the big changes, but if everyone changes is in their own way as they can, then that will be a big change.
Well, we got a little thing here at the top under Listen Live that says we have no sponsors. Please donate at the bottom of the page, and we depend on those donations, and they're very minimal to be able to do it. But we do not take any sponsors, and one of the reasons why, James, that we don't is that we don't want to be told what to say on the radio. We don't want our guests to be told what to say. You should be able to have the freedom to be able to speak your own opinion and go with it that way.
Right.
And we do broadcast through 55 different networks to 149 countries, and we have a very wide range of listenership. And mostly, of course, United States, Canada, and for some reason or other, Ireland.
Well, that's amazing. You have so you have actually a lot of people listening to your shows.
Right.
That's amazing. That's great, because look how much influence you can. That's a big contribution.
Well, it's only with guys like you that come in and be able to, inform people. This is the main thing. I think that people who aren't informed can't make good decisions. Mm-hmm. And, we need to be more informed, and we need to be not only in the entertainment end of it, but in the factual end of it. I think some of our cohorts there, Kerry Cassidy and Bill Ryan, Project Avalon, Project Camelot, and they're doing a terrific job.
I agree. I love those guys.
Yeah,
I would like to meet them. I haven't met them yet, but I'd love to meet them.
Oh, they're just fantastic people to, bring out into the mainstream. And I'm saying almost mainstream now. They're so popular on YouTube. And when do we stop saying that CNN is mainstream?
Right.
Because there's, I've seen different ones with 18, 19 million hits. So somebody's listening,
That's incredible.
Yeah, they're looking at the information from many, many different people. And these, Kerry and Bill are doing a fantastic job at picking the right people. I think that's a key thing, too, is to pick the right people and, get it out there. And back to your movie, beginning, middle, and end. Can you sort of give us a drift of what's happening within the Hidden Hand?
Yeah, I can. First of all, I'll say that if you want to know anything more about the film, you can get it at hiddenhandthemovie.com. That's handthemovie.com, and then you can talk to me on Twitter or Facebook also if you'd like. And basically, the film starts out.
Let me intersect just for a second. For anybody who's in the chat, because we have interactive chat here at Project Freedom 2. Anybody who's in the chat, just go right below the chat, and you'll see a great big banner there that says The Hidden Hand, James Carman, and Alien Contact, and Government Cover-Up. Just touch it with your mouse, and it takes you right to his site. Okay, go ahead, James.
So, it starts off and it says basically the phenomenon is real. There's something going on, and I have very credible people speaking, like Dr. Edgar Mitchell, who was the 6th astronaut on the moon, 2 PhDs from MIT, decorated war hero, and when he came back from the moon, he grew up in Roswell, and so all the old timers in Roswell approached him because authority had told them quiet about what they had seen and what they knew. And so they went to him and they presented their story, saying that a craft had fallen, there was debris, and that there were bodies. And then he went to the Pentagon and had that corroborated, that actually, in fact, did happen. And then I have Paul Hellyer, who was a Canadian defense minister, also making cooperation by contacts he had from the Pentagon. And I have many people from the military that are also talking about their experiences. So abductees and what that means, and that there's usually what happens is kind of a sexual experimentation, taking sperm and ova, and that then after that I go into the military involvement, that there's black budget projects called SCs, which are secret access projects that are that most people don't know about, and that large amounts of money are funneled into, and that there's some about ETs and aliens. And basically how the government, or let's say the secret military or in the secret government, cover up what they're doing in terms of developing technology that originated from ET, all the research and development they're doing with ET, and the craft that they've already developed now. So if you see UFOs in the sky, it might not necessarily be ETs, it could be our own craft. And then it goes into different types of ETs, the ones that are commonly talked about, goes into implants, that people report having implants put in their body by the ETs for various reasons. And then it goes into what I call the generational phenomena of this, that it is generational, and that then it goes into that some people claim that there is a hybridization going on, with that there are women who say that they were pregnant although they haven't slept with anyone for months, and then when they go to get their baby aborted or go to get their baby looked at by a doctor, then it's gone the next day. And this is a pretty common occurrence. And so there's a lot of women and men who say that they've had what they call hybrid babies that are half human, half ET, and that the whole juxt of this program is to make a hybrid race. And then I go into that there's people who have positive contacts and that say, that all the negative ET stuff is a bunch of hooey, and it's basically people have misinterpreted and just been scared. So they say that, the ETs they've been in contact with are very helpful and bring spiritual wisdom and want enlightenment for the human race. And so that's what you would call a contactee. And, I have quite a few, like Nassim Haramein talks about that, James Gilliland. I have Mark Brinkerhoff. I have Julian Michaels, kind of all saying that they've had very good contacts. And then I go into that there seems to be like a rogue part of the military that abducts abductees to find out more about what the ET is up to. And then I go into what's called exopolitics, is that there's a movement now where people are saying we need to build a political institution in terms of having a formalized diplomatic relationship with ET. And then I am talking about galactic consciousness. That's what I call galactic consciousness, and that's basically us expanding out through the solar system and galaxy, but it's also about our new understanding of physics and consciousness, and that we are expanding in our minds, and we're expanding in our ideas of what dimensionality is, and that basically we might be able to be in more dimensions than these three that most of us perceive ourselves to be in.
You mentioned the political end of it. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The exopolitics end of it. Have you met Alfred Weber?
I think I have met him once. I can't remember where. I met him briefly. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious on that. We went to the same school together, or not together, but at separate times, but we went to the same school. Of metaphysics, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, and I know Alfred quite well. Over at Exopolitics, he does a fantastic job too.
Yeah, of course he does. I know about him. I just met him briefly, and I think it was at a conference. But yeah.
Yeah, we were talking. You were talking about the benevolent end of it and the malevolent end of it, I guess. Of the abductees. Then you have people like Whitley Strieber, and it started out with Whit to be very malevolent, I guess. It was very scary. It was very horrifying to him what was happening. But by the end of the book, Communion, let's put it that way, he found out that they were a benevolent type of entity. I
don't know if I would make that interpretation. I mean, I think what he would say is that, you just don't know. It's like it's living inside the mystery, and every day the question is unanswered because it's so perplexing, and the whole phenomenon in his experiences they're so baffling. And sometimes he was taken, and he was raped basically, and his sperm was taken, and then he had also experiences where he would willingly stay in a place where he knew that they would come, and interaction where he would have come away with knowledge and teachings from them. But I think, and I know him fairly well, I would say that he's never come out and said on one way or the other if they're good or bad. It's enigmatic in a way.
Right.
And I think that's kind of the way, we tend to always look at things in terms of good and bad, and for us. But it's like if you look at a giraffe, can you say it's a good or bad giraffe, or that the giraffe is bad for humanity or good for humanity? It's kind of just something else. Do you know what I mean? It's a whole different box. Although I think it was Stephen Hawking said that if ETs came to Earth, that it would be. I think that they would be more hostile, or could be more hostile, just because the animals that evolve in the food chain, they tend to be more predatorial. So if you have the lions and the tigers, and so I mean, I don't really think that's totally true, because you also have elephants and whales and porpoises, and they're not predatorial. But maybe there's both kinds. Maybe we just haven't figured things out yet. I think the biggest problem is that there's no real scientific credibility in studying any of this, and people are ridiculed, they lose their grant money, so people, credible scientists stay away. And when that's changed, then I think our understanding change.
I've looked at the ET contacts, alien contact, and there has been so many people throughout the world who have, give testimony. And, prior to my retirement, let's put it that way, I practiced law, and if I had 5 witnesses to a crime, you could darn near 100% say that person's going down, because there's 5 witnesses. We have thousands or hundreds of thousands of witnesses to UFOs, and it still isn't accepted.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, a little bit of a sea change where people aren't quite as ridiculed as they were, and it seems like the whole UFO movement is a little bigger than it was, but maybe that's just because I'm in it, so I don't have a good sense of perspective. But what are your ideas on that?
Well, I'm in it too, and I've been here for 3 years, and it seems to be accelerating, but maybe it's just, as you say, because we're so close to it. But, and again, maybe Hollywood movies and sitcoms and stuff like this about alien contact seem to be very popular. So maybe it's just a time that all of this stuff has just come to, that state of popularity that everybody's watching. I don't like what Hollywood does with it, because the majority of the time it's, horrible-looking creatures that come and invade the planet and tear us all apart.
Yeah, it evokes a lot of fear.
Yeah, it evokes a lot of fear, except for Paul. I really loved that movie.
Right.
And it was, one of those things that you can sit back and relax and enjoy. At the same time, it had a little tiny wee bits of facts in it, that I'm talking about location like Roswell and whatever, but so maybe it is just the popularity of it, and I'm much more familiar, I guess, because I have so many different people on here as guests. who have had alien contact or are interested in it, like Stephen Bassett, of course, with disclosure, and I just, we're Friday night actually we're doing USOCs, which is a group of people, archaeologists, and they're going into a lot of different things, and it all is sort of UFO related. John, who is that? Stone Brothers.
The Strong Brothers.
Strong Brothers. Yeah. That's it. Stephen and Evan. Isn't it?
Yes,
yeah,
that's
Stephen
right.
and Evan Strong. They'll be in. Large Stratton will be in that day too, and that's coming up this Friday, November 1st. And they have did a lot of archaeological digs and deciphered a lot of the different cave drawings and things in Australia, down under, and they have evidence that Nefertiti's Tutankhamun, who else, John? Nefertiti's Tutankhamun, Akhenaten, Moses, were there at a given time in Australia on different types of ships. And, it's very interesting when you take a look at it. And
it makes sense because, they would have technology they would just get in a scout ship and it would be a jaunt to us.
Yeah.
They had this temple energy grid system all over the earth. Mm-hmm. It was a civilization all over the earth. It wasn't just in one place. And so that makes total sense that you're going to find their footprint everywhere. I mean, even if you look in North America, there's so many kind of anomalous sites that indicate, there was here before the so-called Native Americans.
Right. I know that I got involved with these people when they were just in the summer. They did a archaeological finds they were looking for there in Peru, and I followed a group of them down through the Sacred Valley to Cresco and different places there, and it was just fascinating what they were doing. And then we have them once a month. We have them on Project Freedom Radio to give us updates on what is happening. Large Stratton will be in this week, but it's fascinating what they've been finding, and it's all UFO connected too. So
yeah,
amazing stuff, I'll tell you. It's very, very interesting.
Yeah, well, it's going to be soon. It will be accepted, and that everything else, the old history will just be like, oh, that was those. How stupid were those people?
Yeah.
And I hope it'll be also soon. It'll be like, oh, these guys were using combustion engines and sucking oil out of the earth, and how primitive was being the earth. And one of my pet peeves is like, humans as a species, we tend to have this kind of myopic vision that we can do whatever we want without any consequences. And so, it's like, okay, we can have 10 billion people here, but it does have consequences. And, we're in there's been 5 mass extinctions, and we're in a mass extinction right now. Animals and plants are dying off faster than any other extinction that we know about. So, I think at some level we've got to then stop saying, okay, well, we can do whatever we want, and we have to balance it and say, well, we can do what makes sense for really the whole, and that means all of the animals, the whole environment, because it doesn't make sense otherwise. It's because we all are connected. We're all living on the earth, and as you've seen in Fukushima, if one nation wants to just run amok, then it affects all of us.
And when you talk about things running amok, and we got 400 reactors around this planet, and we've had 2 major, I guess, disasters with Chernobyl and Fukushima. Heaven knows what else can happen, and it's certainly. And here we have, in England, they have just passed signed a agreement to build a massive reactor. And you think, oh God, but nobody's learning anything here. We've got to get away from that attitude. As you say, we have to. Is it going to be good for the planet? And what about technology? What about Tesla technology and the different things that will happen? Let's say 100 years ago, towards free energy, and why don't we have it yet?
Well, I think that's part of the whole UFO equation is because once you open that up, like free energy and enigravitics, then the way that mainstream physics is done will have to be recalibrated. And so if you have to recalibrate that, then those people who have that right now, then they don't have any kind of advantage over us, and those technologies will become available. And also, I think, control everyone financially. Not that they couldn't, but obviously you could charge for free energy. It's like, people are starting to charge for rainwater and, the fish in the ocean and, probably for sunlight soon, or oxygen. They could give us an oxygen tax and we have to start paying for oxygen. So, but yeah, I think it's time that happens. I mean, that is very crucial now, and hopefully there'll be an opening where we can all enjoy free energy.
That would be absolutely wonderful. I know that when I was a kid, and I was walking around, let's say 12, 13 years old, and somebody told me that I'd be buying water, I would have looked at them and said, "You're nuts. Why would we buy water? 3/4 of the bloody planet is water. Why would you buy it?" And now when I go to the grocery store, I see nothing but people, filling the bottom of their carts full of 24 bottles of water. And
which is horrible because it's made out of plastic, and that just goes in the Pacific, and it doesn't make any sense at all.
No,
and obviously the worst thing that people can do is drink fluorinated and chlorinated water, because that's really bad for the brain. For some reason, we allow ourselves to be dictated to, and so we have to drink this water that's not good for us.
Yeah. Well, that the plastic bottles they make are very toxic, and I'm not saying the water is, but sure as heck is once it gets into a plastic bottle, and and then where are they getting the water? Like, I know there's bladders full of water taken from the Great Lakes, over to China, and
and that will have consequences on our mini ecosystem, because if you need water in your ecosystem to keep on bringing water and attracting water, so that's a problem. That's what I was in Africa and huge lake there in Kenya, and they have this whole flower industry built up around it. But in the last, I guess, 20 years, it's sunk 80 meters because they just take the water out, and then they grow those flowers and they fly them to Europe, and basically the water is in those flowers, and so it's taking water out of, making their country more and more arid, really.
I know it's amazing. I saw some Google Earth shots. They have a video out there showing the global warming, and they started taking pictures of the Earth, I think in 1984 or something, and they did a time lapse that lasts like a minute or so, and you can see the different regions and how they've changed just since 1984 till now. And it's like Las Vegas was half the size in 1984 that it is now, and the lake that they feed out of is less than half the size that it was in 1984 because they're consuming all the water. And,
I know you talk about a catastrophe where, like the whole Southwest there, people live where the water is actually pumped in there. There's not enough water there, but it's amazing. They have these sprawling megalopolises, and somewhere down the road there's going to be a problem. That's given.
Well, Mother Earth is going to do her thing, and
Yeah.
it's a catastrophe when you lose, 50,000 people. But if 50,000 people built their homes on the side of a cliff that is known to wash away through the rains, then you begin to wonder, shake your head, people. Don't build your house there. And I think that's just a analogy of why people build in floodplains and, against the side of a mountain and blah, blah, blah. Mother Nature's going to do her thing, and this is a natural thing for it to do. And then we've got the unnatural thing, which is the pollutants of the carbons and stuff that we're burning. I know that with the chemtrails, that's another thing John and I were looking at, was the fact that they're building a glass bubble around the planet and with aluminum. And it is not, we can't exhaust any of the sunlight, what do they call it? I'm sorry, John. We can't exhaust the fumes that we're creating ourselves. So.
Right.
Yeah.
So did you?
Go ahead.
An idea of why we're doing that?
Do I have an idea of why we're doing it?
Why we're making the chemtrails? Why we're creating a kind of artificial atmosphere?
I was just discussing with Darcy, one of our co-hosts here earlier, and I said, you know what? What if they started this way back when, and now they can't stop? If they stop, there could be superstorms all over the place because they got complete control of the weather, as far as I'm concerned, with HARP, and there's 18 different HARPs around the planet, and they're bluntly obvious. They announced the fact right on their site that it's a research project for controlling the weather, and that's one thing that it is. But I don't know. When I take a look at the different things that have happened on the planet, was HARP responsible for Fukushima? Was there a massive movement within the 3 points of the tectonic plate that come together at the tip of Japan, and which created a earthquake and a tsunami?
Well, it just happened again. 2 days ago, there was a large earthquake in the same place.
Wow.
And it was interesting then, just yesterday, the Prime Minister of Japan came out and said that they were going to play tough with China and they weren't going to accept any Chinese authority in the region. And so I just looked at that and I wondered if there was a connection at all.
I'm not sure. The tectonic, or not the tectonic, the situation over there, as far as I'm concerned, is escalating daily. Within the next 2 days, 2 or 3 days, I think we were looking it up. There's some typhoons that will be hitting that area, and that could cause, more damage. And now you just mentioned that there was an earthquake a couple of days ago, which I didn't know about for some reason or other. But it just sounds like again, it could be an apocalyptic event. And if it is, James, who would believe you? There is so much on the internet today, and people are so programmed, living in this hypnotic trance, that they are desensitized to all of it. It's happening on the other side of the world, so it doesn't affect them as far as they're concerned. And they can't see it, touch it, feel it, so it doesn't exist.
That's true, but how many people listen to you on your program?
I'm not sure. I haven't got any numbers. All I got is ratings of who we are beating. It's like we've got like many times we beat Rush Lombard coast to coast, Alex Jones, et cetera, et cetera. And, I can tell. Go ahead.
So I mean that gets to back to my point. Is that I think it's a segment of people that are waking up and that are interested, and that aren't oblivious. So, I think, every movement was started with small numbers, and then it kind of developed into, the status quo. So I don't see why that can't happen now.
Yeah. Well, that's what we're hoping for sure, is to be able to get the word out. And it certainly won't be just Project Freedom, but it'll be a collaborative effort between, all of the people out there working towards finding the truth. That's all we want to know is the truth.
Mm-hmm.
I've said it many times to one of my co-hosts, John, here, that what is the darn truth? Am I listening to William Blake, who has that video? If I was to believe him, I better start stocking up food and getting, into my basement, sort of thing. How much of what he says is truth? And,
I'm not familiar with him. Just give me an overview of what he said.
Basically, he's the one that is saying that we are in an apocalyptic state. That within the next, month or so, the way that Fukushima is going, that there could be a major catastrophe in the northern hemisphere of the planet, nuclear fallout type of event because of the meltdown.
Mm-hmm.
And the explosions that happen because of the liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen.
Right.
So basically that, and I'm not saying he's right. I'm just saying what part of it is right and what part of it is wrong. What part of Bob Dean is right, or any of them that come out.
Well, I agree that the consequences can be very, very good. And so that's why I think, we should help Japan as much as we could. We can. I mean, in just every single nation that has something to offer, we should just do it internationally.
Yeah, definitely. Every nation in this planet should be focusing on Fukushima right now, helping them in any way. I don't care if it's financial or with ships to, they just raised the evacuation area to about 20 times bigger than what it was. And they're telling you something, like people aren't listening to what they're saying. They're saying this is going, it's getting out of hand here.
Right.
There's a situation here that should be looked at very seriously, and it should be looked at through all the nuclear regulatory commissions throughout the planet. Everybody should be helping them instead of criticizing the government, like the government of Japan is lying to all the people. And these are what I always call plausible explanations, and people accept plausible explanations as a matter of fact. And I think a very good example of that, James, is the fact that on January 1st, one year, 5,000 birds fell out of the sky in Arkansas. And on January 1st, the following year, 5,000 birds fell out of the sky. Now, we got a major problem here with birds falling out of the sky on January 1st for some reason or other. The biggest thing is, it came across CNN News, mainstream media, that they all died of brain hemorrhage, and everybody went, oh, I see, they died of brain hemorrhage. Why?
Mm-hmm.
What caused the brain hemorrhage? Nobody asked the question. It was a plausible explanation. They accepted it, and they let it go. And I think the same thing with playing down the Fukushima situation to plausible explanations. People are sitting back in their living room with their little 60-inch TVs and accepting all of this rather than questioning it. I think we have to be able to start to question why these things are happening on this planet. What is the truth about Fukushima? I don't want to go into my house for 2 months. And as I said to Darcy, one of our co-hosts here before the program, you're supposed to stay indoors and have enough food and water to supply yourself for 2 months. Well, what happens after 2 months? Do you understand nuclear fusion? Do you understand that meltdown does not stop in 2 months? It continues.
Right.
It's called the China syndrome.
Uh-huh.
Like, hello? So we're not getting any real answers here.
Right. Well, we'll see how it all plays out.
Yeah.
But I think, again, I want to reiterate, I personally think it's good to know what's going on and to know the facts, but I think it's also not to, I choose not to sink into what I call fear mode, to let all this stuff, so frightened that I'm incapacitated in a way.
Right.
And it's more like, it's not like I can't do anything, it's more like my whole body and energy field then constricts. And if it constricts, then, I have a hard time living my life to potential. And that's what I want to live my life to potential now, so I can be of help to other people, so I can be an example to other people. So I just would like to reiterate, I think, you still have to always be aware of what's going on, but also connect to what's good in your life and connect to the divine spirit, and I think you can't do any better than that.
Well, I think that if humanity came together again, through chaos comes order, and we will get our stuff together. But unfortunately, it looks like we may have to go through some pretty bad times before we do get our stuff together. But I do have faith in humanity that we will survive ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, James, thank you so much for coming over. We've been on an hour already. Yeah, we're by quick. And yes, underneath the chat, of course, we got The Hidden Hand, Alien Contact and Government Cover-Up by James Carman. And you can just click that link and it'll take you right over there. And everybody should take a look at that. And there's a trailer over there. You can take a good, great trailer. Tells you what the thing's about. And thank you very much for coming over, James.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure to speak with you. And, if you ever would like to speak to me again, I would be very honored.
Oh, the honor is ours for sure. And hopefully very soon we'll get together again. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Take care. Bye.
All right. That was James Carman. And The Hidden Hand is the name of the documentary film Alien Contact and Government Cover-Up.